Thank you for those generous introductions, Justin, and thank you all for being here today. It's a privilege to address you, the leaders of Britain's world-class automotive industry, and our many international partners on the day of the Society of Motor Manufacturers releases its inaugural International Automotive Trade Report. Britain has always been right at the cutting edge of automotive innovation. Our world-class engineers, designers, and manufacturers make breakthrough after breakthrough to propel this dynamic and highly competitive industry into the modern age. One of the inventions which helped provide the bedrock upon which this automotive revolution was built was as explosive as its eccentric creator's temper. After all, Sir George Cayley's early 19th century design for a version of the internal combustion engine was fueled not by petrol, but by gunpowder. As my speechwriter puts in, I have to say, filling it up must have been a blast. Perhaps unsurprisingly, given the safety implications of this incendiary machine, Sir George is also credited with creating and installing the world's first ever seatbelts. This Victorian genius was one of the long line of brilliant British innovators stretching into the present day, who've helped create an industry success story that now produces over 1.5 million vehicles a year. The foundation of this extraordinary achievement is our capacity for evolution, of relentless technological advancement, helping us stay ahead of the game. Britain now produces some of the most technologically sophisticated vehicles in the world, 80% of which are exported to more than 160 countries, generating £77.9 billion in turnover last year. And this determination to innovate is a key strength for the current generation of world-class car makers in Britain. We are witnessing an astonishing revolution in vehicle design, manufacture, and propulsion. And the UK is perfectly placed to seize upon the unique opportunities this presents. Only economies which fully embrace this new age of high-tech manufacturing can hope to prosper in a fast-changing global marketplace. The UK's engineers are at the forefront of work to refine the batteries that will power the next generation of electric vehicles. British expertise is also helping develop the prototypes for the first fully autonomous cars and the infrastructure and regulatory framework they will depend upon. This means we're helping lead the automotive change rather than being left behind in the slow lane. Now, I know the decision to leave the EU and the uncertainty about the terms of our exit has led to concerns in your industry and indeed industry across the country, but particularly in your industry because of the integrated nature of the automotive supply chains across the UK and continental Europe. We have consulted extensively with the UK automotive industry and continue to have your interests upmost in our minds as we prepare to leave the EU and become an independent, truly global free trading nation. And we're working hard to ensure that the British economy, including our dynamic automotive industry, is able to thrive upon the new, rich opportunities this brings. While we want to maintain our close and mutually beneficial economic ties with our friends and neighbours in the EU, we are looking out across the globe towards vast new sources of prosperity being created in fast-growing economies and emerging markets such as China, Brazil, and India. Now, after all, according to the IMF, these markets represent 90% of all global growth over the next 5 years. But I do want to make it clear to the audience here today that I very much recognise, and I hope you would, and you expect we would, the extreme difficulties that leaving the EU presents this particular industry. But don't think that the UK has stood still in forging new trading relationships. We haven't. We're working with countries across the world to explore the best ways to develop commercial and investment relationships and ensure that Britain becomes a global leader in free trade. We've established working groups and high-level dialogues with a range of key trading partners, such as the United States, Australia, China, the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, India, Japan, New Zealand, and indeed many others. This has often included preparatory work for the potential of new free trade agreements. The world's major economies want to do business with Britain, as demonstrated just recently by the trade continuity agreement we agreed in principle with South Korea earlier this month. Once signed, that will mean the UK has secured transition agreements that account for 63% of all the trade that the EU does with countries where we seek continuity. and we're working intensively on the remaining agreements. The UK is a growing exporter to emerging non-EU markets to whom our firms now sell billions of pounds worth of automotive product annually. These markets want British-made cars because of their quality and technological excellence. And there is a huge international appetite for the innovation, skills and investment that UK-based manufacturers and suppliers have to offer. This is based in part on the enduring kudos of established, world-famous British brands. But it's our growing reputation as a fertile environment for nurturing growth and excellence in research and innovation that is helping to pique the interest of overseas investors. And my department is doing all it can every day to build on that progress that we are progressing. Our automotive sector deal sets out a joint strategic vision with the industry about how we can shape our response to the grand challenges laid out in the industrial strategy. Most notably, our focus on clean growth and future mobility. This deal includes an agreement on joint research investment by the government and private firms, together with our long-term commitment to developing the batteries of the future. In addition, we're investing a further £28 million in the new UK Battery Industrialisation Centre, which is being built near Coventry. The funding follows an initial £80 million investment in the facility, which is due to become a precursor for large-scale battery manufacturing in Britain. Britain is already the global location of choice for the development and deployment of connected and autonomous vehicles, COV technologies, and this deal will help reinforce that. The UK's transition to low-carbon, connected and autonomous vehicles requires new supply chains. Recognising this key development priority, we're supporting cutting-edge automotive research and development through the UK's Advanced Propulsion Centre. And earlier this month, the government announced the winners of the latest APC 12 competition, with 5 consortia involving 32 partner organisations receiving £33 million in grants towards a total project value of £66 million. In addition, we've invested £16 million in creating a new national manufacturing competitive levels programme to help keep UK firms ahead of their overseas rivals. But crucially, automotive manufacturers and suppliers in Britain are taking their own initiative to push boundaries of these new technologies. Caterpillar and Avid Technology are, for example, planning to create a fully electrified construction machine producing zero exhaust emissions and lower noise. Meanwhile, at its European Technical Centre in Coventry, Tata Motors is making an ultra-clean, low-cost, zero-emissions thermal hydrogen engine for use in lorries. And we will need to further harness this dynamism as we move forward into some very challenging times ahead in world trade. Growth is slowing in Europe, and global GDP expansion has been downgraded by the OECD for this year and next year to 3.2% and 3.4% respectively. And of course, I recognise that the automotive industry is facing other particular challenges. The move away from diesel engines and the growing need to invest in low-carbon, connected and autonomous technologies has increased pressures on the sector. This has undermined demand and impacted upon car production. But I am confident that our motor industry has the fundamental strengths required to meet these challenges. After all, we've seen significant recent investments in the sector. BMW has been invested in building the new electric Mini at its Cowley plant, protecting jobs, and is taking on even more workers at Rolls-Royce's Goodwood factory to meet record demand. Toyota is making its new Corolla and will be building hybrid Suzuki models for the first time at its Derbyshire plant. And Aston Martin is opening a brand new production facility near Cardiff for its new SUV and forthcoming electric vehicles. In addition, McLaren has reshored its innovative composite body manufacturer from Austria to Sheffield. Our motor industry has deep commercial ties with its international counterparts, not least those with huge stakes in the UK car industry, including world-leading firms from Japan, Germany, and the United States. My department, the Department for International Trade, is working tirelessly to help foster these relationships and build further bridges between our firms and new markets and investors abroad. Together with UKEF, that's the UK Export Finance arm of DIT, DIT is ensuring is trying to ensure that UK-based vehicle manufacturers and firms involved in the supply chain have access to the funding they need to be selling overseas. Our partnership also succeeded in helping to attract billions of pounds of FDI, foreign direct investment, for the British car industry last year. This will help fill supply chain gaps and build the supply chains of the future, as well as supporting our automotive components and engineering services exporters. In the financial year 17-18, DIT supported 98 FDI projects in the automotive sector, creating more than 4,000 new jobs. This demonstrates the enduring attraction of the UK's rich automotive manufacturing ecosystem to overseas investors, and we are determined to build on this base. So next year, car makers based here will benefit from the UK's reduction in corporation tax from 19% down to 17%, the lowest rate in the G7. As well as promoting foreign direct investment, my department and UCAF are also helping our firms to take their first steps into selling their products abroad. This includes our new groundbreaking Small Deal Initiative. Through this, companies of all sizes will be able to access buyer finance support, with UCAF guaranteeing the loans that their potential customers abroad take out in order to buy British. We recognise there is some short-term uncertainty as we prepare to leave the European Union. But as an astute investor would see, this is a major opportunity for their firm, not a hindrance to buying a stake in Britain's bright economic future. The incredible pace of change in the global economy presents unprecedented possibilities, together with inevitable challenges. Britain's automotive sector will have to remain nimble, flexible, and ambitious in pursuit of technological advancement in order to secure a leading position in the international marketplace of the future. DIT, the international business arm of the government, is promoting this work internationally and encouraging others to come and invest and innovate in this space in the UK. At the same time, of course, we always seek to ensure that you can trade abroad on equal terms through the transition of EU FTAs and the creation of new ones. And the work on market access in individual markets will always continue to help you where there are areas where you cannot reach your markets on a fair basis. On top of this, of course, we also work multilaterally to find solutions to the undoubted issues being created for automotive by disputes between some of the world's largest players in trade. This is a challenging area. The WTO is a marvellous institution. It's created huge amounts of wealth, but there is no doubt that it requires reform and is currently being used as a proxy for wars, trade wars between countries. Government recognises the real challenges facing your industry. BEIS, with input from across government, has, of course, as one of the 4 pillars of its industrial strategy, sought to create the conditions at home that will help to provide the technological answers that the automotive industry will need to remain competitive internationally. Only by tapping into the rich vein of creativity and imagination which runs right through the heart of this remarkable British industry will it retain its place at the forefront of automotive innovation. As one of the great British car designers, one of the greatest in history, Henry Royce, once so prophetically opined, to stay ahead in business, one must take the best that exists and make it better. And, if it doesn't exist, create it. This is the message Britain's motor industry continues to embrace today, as it helps lead the world into a new age of technological advancement in which the means, the modes, and the manufacture of vehicles is transformed beyond all recognition. Thank you.